How are you guys enjoying New York Comic Con thus far?
Loving it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Have you done the Comic Con thing before?
I've been to San Diego Comic Con before, but I have not been to New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
So this is really exciting.
It's getting bigger and bigger. Let's talk some Drop. So Drop is, it's dropping in April 2025, and this sounds like it's going to be the most 2025-ish thriller that we're going to see next year. It's a very up to date story. Can you guys set it up for everybody watching?
Yeah, I mean, Drop is about a single mom who goes on a date, her first date in a while, and she goes to this fancy high-rise restaurant in Chicago, and she starts getting airdrops from somebody in the room, and they're memes, and they seem kind of benign at first, but they turn sinister, and then she gets a message that says, check your security cameras, and realizes that there's an armed gunman in her house holding her son and her sister hostage, and things get a lot worse from there.
I feel like this is going to be a movie that, like, when people see, they're never going to look at airdrops the same. Like, you guys are changing the game for the airdrop.
Well, first of all, they're not called airdrop in our movies because we couldn't get sued.
Is that an Apple thing?
It is an Apple
thing. It is.
Yes.
It is.
So in our movie, it's called DigiDrop.
Oh,
it's a competitor.
It's a Digidrop.
It's an Apple
Watch
competitor.
Apple. DigiDrop is coming
It's coming.
for you.
It's coming.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean it's a similar technology.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean I think that it's what's fun about the movie is that it's shows the ways in which sort of very sort of innocent types of technology can be weaponized and turned against someone.
Yeah, Meghann, tell us about your experience reading this and what excited you. What really popped off the page for you?
Well, I had the really lucky experience of reading it in a way that I just couldn't stop. Which, people who read things a lot like we do is not always the experience that you have. So it was really exciting that this was such a page turner just from its original state of being. That's such a good sign that the translation of that into the film, will also be that engaging. And we think it is.
And how is this character different from anyone you've played in the past? Well,
Violet, I think, is in many ways just like a really down-to-earth person, which is, there's nothing really... The style of the movie is the most stylized thing about it. There's no... pretense. The characters are just, people that something crazy happens to. Yeah. And I think that's obviously very different than the last thing that most people will have seen me do on a base level. Yeah. So,
but she's a deceptively complex character, because on the surface she seems like someone who's very much sort of like average and sort of has a simple life that she's in control of, and then very quickly you see how she loses control of that. And the movie is ultimately about the test of that. Like, do you succumb to the pressures of this anonymous person, or can you rise, Yeah. And I think that's what's really cool about her.
Yeah. It feels really good to watch somebody go through that kind of change as well, like to be challenged in a way.
In terms of how you guys are sort of integrating the technology, I think this is what you'd call a techno thriller, right? Is that appropriate?
It's a techno
Is that appropriate?
thriller. I feel like someone's on rollerblades. If that's
or it's a rave movie.
Yeah.
No, that term just popped into my mind. It's like I've heard that a lot, and I feel like
guess
this
it's a
might be
subgenre.
what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do you sort of balance that need to integrate what is very contemporary technology and yet still tell a story that you want people watching 20 years from now and still feel timeless?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately what we do in the film, and I'm not giving anything away, but like, there's a point fairly early in the film where you stop looking at phones. And it becomes a dialogue between Violet and this unseen person who is tormenting her. And so I think that's what makes it timeless, because the themes of the movie are also, I think, fairly timeless, which is sort of, a person placed in an impossible situation and how can they get out of it.
And a parent's need to do whatever they can
Yes,
to protect their child. Which, if you've had kids, you don't realize that that innate urge until you have children.
There's like nothing you won't do.
100%.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it makes sense how like you hear stories of like women picking up cars to save their babies.
Exactly.
She just did that
You just did, yeah.
in the parking lot.
I did just do that.
You did that in preparation for this role.
I did.
Yeah. It's a Blumhouse joint. I feel like they're sort of like they're the Marvel of horror thrillers in a lot of ways, in that they just seem like such like a well-oiled machine in terms of just like, you know, continually dropping really high quality genre pieces. Like, what can you guys say about working with Blumhouse and sort of, you know, how sort of different it feels in working within their walls and in the genre space?
I made a lot of movies.
Yeah.
With them and with Jason Blum specifically. I don't even know how many now. I would say that I think why I love working with them is that they are willing to take risks that other places won't. They're very filmmaker sensitive and supportive. You know what I mean? So like, they allow you to go make the movie that you wanted to make. They don't put their hands all over it and try to change it and manipulate it. It's your film. And in a business where you often find yourself with a million cooks in the kitchen, you know, it's nice to have something that is so streamlined. And I think that's why all the filmmakers that come back, like Scott Derrickson and, you know, Mike Flanagan, there's a bunch of them, Lee Wanell, I think we all go back for the same reason, which is we have creative control. And I think that's really important.
Well, getting back to New York Comic Con before we go, I mean, Comic Con like San Diego, all Comic Cons in general are sort of, you know, they're the ultimate sort of collision point between fans and the people that create the stuff that they love and they consume. I would love to hear from each of you guys if you've had a moment where you met somebody that you were a fan of. You both work in showbiz. You both cross paths with a lot of people that you absolutely lost your shit over.
I mean, Taylor Swift, obviously.
You met Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I cried.
Did you cry, really?
I did involuntarily. Yeah, I did.
That's amazing.
Out at like an event of some kind. What about you?
It's embarrassing. I saw Wes Craven in a restaurant, and I'm a naturally nervous person, and I also kind of deal with, do you know what hyperhidrosis is? It's like when you get really sweaty spontaneously from nerves, like your palms get really sweaty. And I went up to him to say hi and to introduce myself, and it immediately happened. And then Wes like reached out to shake my hand. And so I like shook his hand with my gross, sweaty hand, and he maintained eye contact and was like, "It's very nice to meet you." And I saw him just very casually wipe his hand on his pants because he was so like probably grossed out by this weirdo nervous fan that came up to him. But yeah, that was mine.
Yeah. Did you cry?
I didn't cry, but I should have by the time I got to my car because I was so embarrassed. But yeah, I was very excited to meet him in person.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for talking to us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Comic Con.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me.
guys. All right.